Random House Audiobooks presents Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Read for you by Elaina Erika Davis.
Memoirs of a Geisha. Suppose that you and I were sitting in a quiet room overlooking a garden, chatting and sipping at our cups of green tea while we talked about something that had happened a long while ago, and I said to you, "That afternoon when I met so-and-so was the very best afternoon of my life, and also the very worst afternoon." I expect you might put down your teacup and say, "Well, now, which was it? Was it the best or the worst? Because it can't possibly have been both." Ordinarily, I'd have to laugh at myself and agree with you. But the truth is that the afternoon when I met Mr. Tanaka Ichiro really was the best and the worst of my life. If I had never known him, I'm sure I would not have become a geisha. I wasn't born and raised to be a Kyoto geisha. I wasn't even born in Kyoto. I'm a fisherman's daughter from a little town called Yoroido on the Sea of Japan. In our little fishing village, I lived in what I called a tipsy house. It stood near a cliff where the wind off the ocean was always blowing. Inside this tipsy house, I lived something of a lopsided life, because from my earliest years I was very much like my mother and hardly at all like my father or older sister Satsu. My mother said it was because we were made just the same, she and I, and it was true. We both had the same peculiar eyes of a sort you almost never see in Japan. Instead of being dark brown like everyone else's, my mother's eyes were a translucent gray, and mine are just the same. My mother always said she'd married my father because she had too much water in her personality, and he had too much wood in his. People who knew my father understood right away what she was talking about. Water flows from place to place quickly and always finds a crack to spill through. Wood, on the other hand, holds fast to the earth. In my father's case, this was a good thing, for he was a fisherman, and a man with wood in his personality is at ease on the sea. When he wasn't fishing, he sat at the little table in our dark front room mending a fishing net. His face was very heavily creased, and into each crease he had tucked some worry or other, so that it wasn't really his own face any longer, but more like a tree that had nests of birds in all the branches. Our parents might have had other children besides Satsu and me, particularly since my father hoped for a boy to fish with him. But when I was 7, my mother grew terribly ill with what was probably bone cancer, though at the time I had no idea what was wrong. Her only escape from discomfort was to sleep, which she began to do the way a cat does, which is to say, more or less constantly. Then one afternoon, I was sitting on the pitted floor of our dark front room singing to a cricket I'd found that morning, when a voice called out at the door, "Oi! Open up! It's Dr. Miura!" Dr. Miura came to our fishing village once a week and had made a point of walking up the hill to check on my mother ever since her illness began. My father was at home that day because a terrible storm was coming. When I opened the door for him, Dr. Miura slipped out of his shoes and stepped right past me into the house. My father and the doctor went into the other room where my mother lay sleeping. I tried to listen at the door, but I could hear only my mother groaning and nothing of what they said. I occupied myself with making tea, and soon the doctor came back out, rubbing his hands together and looking very stern. He and my father sat together at the table. "You need to have a talk with one of the women in the village," Dr. Miura began. "Mrs. Sugi, perhaps. Ask her to make a nice new robe for your wife." "I haven't the money, doctor," my father said. "We've all grown poorer lately, but you owe it to your wife. She shouldn't die in that tattered robe she's wearing." "So she's going to die soon?" A few more weeks, perhaps. She's in terrible pain. Death will release her." After this, I couldn't hear the voices any longer, for in my ears I heard a sound like a bird's wings flapping in panic. Perhaps it was my heart, I don't know. After Dr. Miura left, my father went on sitting for a long while in silence with his back to me. At last he said my name in a whisper. I went and knelt beside him. "Go down to the village. Bring back some incense for the altar." Our tiny Buddhist altar rested on an old crate beside the entrance to the kitchen, and was the only thing of value in our tipsy house. "But, Father, wasn't there anything else?" He made a gesture with his hand that meant for me to leave. The path from our tipsy house followed the edge of the sea cliffs before turning inland toward the village. Walking it on a day like this was difficult, but I remember feeling grateful that the fierce wind drew my mind from the things troubling me. I ran down the path until the village came into view below me. Yoroido had only one road leading right to the front door of the Japan Coastal Seafood Company. It was lined with a number of houses whose front rooms were used for shops. I ran across the street toward the Okada house where dry goods were sold, but then something happened to me. One of those trivial things with huge consequences, like losing your step and falling in front of a train. The packed dirt road was slippery in the rain, and my feet went out from under me. I fell forward onto one side of my face. I have only a vague idea what happened next. I heard voices and felt myself turned onto my back. I was lifted and carried. I could tell they were taking me into the Japan Coastal Seafood Company because I smelled the odor of fish wrapping itself all around me. I knew I was wet from the rain and bloody too, and that I was barefoot and dirty and wearing peasant's clothing. It was in this condition I found myself looking up into the face of Mr. Tanaka Ichiro. I'd seen Mr. Tanaka in our village many times before. He lived in a much larger town nearby but came every day, for his family owned the Japan Coastal Seafood Company. He didn't wear peasant clothing like the fishermen, but rather a man's kimono with kimono trousers. I lay there on that slimy table while Mr. Tanaka examined my lip, pulling it down with his fingers and tipping my head this way and that. All at once, he caught sight of my grey eyes, which were fixed on his face with such fascination I couldn't pretend I hadn't been staring at him. "I know you," he said. "You're old Sakamoto's little girl." Then Mr. Tanaka told his assistant, who was named Sugi, to go and fetch Dr. Miura. I told Mr. Tanaka the doctor had been at our house a few minutes earlier. "Where is your house?" Mr. Tanaka asked. "It's the little tipsy house up on the cliffs." "Well, Sugi, walk up to old Sakamoto's tipsy house and look for Dr. Miura." I imagined Mr. Tanaka would go back to his work after Sugi had left, but instead he stood near the table a long while looking at me. "Dr. Miura told me your mother is sick," he said. "With your father so old, what will become of you? Who takes care of you even now?" "I suppose I take care of myself these days," I said. "I know a certain man. He's older now, but when he was a boy about your age, his father died. The very next year his mother died, and then his older brother ran away to Osaka and left him alone. Sounds a bit like you, don't you think?" Mr. Tanaka said. "Well, that man's name is Tanaka Ichiro," he went on. "Yes, me. I was taken in by the Tanaka family at the age of 12. After I got a bit older, I was married to the daughter and adopted. Now I help run the family's seafood company. So things turned out all right for me in the end, you see. Perhaps something like that might happen to you, too." From that very moment on, I began to have fantasies that Mr. Tanaka would adopt me. A week or so later, when my fantasies of adoption had had plenty of time to ripen, I came home.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?